Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. PM Modi departs for New Delhi after wrapping up a successful visit to Russia. Kazan declaration adopted at the 16th BRICS summit. The declaration emphasizes on reforms in global security and multilateralism. And Donald Trump's team accuses UK's Labour Party of election interference as Keir Starmer tries to play down the row. So let's begin the bulletin with all the BRICS summit updates coming from Kazan, Russia. So after concluding his successful Russia visit and attending the 16th BRICS summit in Kazan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has departed for New Delhi. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was in Russia for the BRICS summit, held a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the summit in the southwestern Russian city of Kazan. This is the first bilateral meeting at delegation level in the last 5 years with the Chinese president. The two leaders welcomed agreements reached through sustained talks, and special representatives have a crucial role to play when it comes to tranquility on the border.
This meeting happened, as you are all aware, close on the heels of the disengagement and patrolling agreement and the resolution of issues that had arisen in the India-China border areas in 2020. Naturally, the two leaders welcomed the agreement reached between the two sides through sustained dialogue over the last several weeks in diplomatic as well as military channels. Prime Minister Modi underscored the importance of not allowing differences on boundary-related matters to disturb peace and tranquility on our borders. And in this context, the two leaders noted that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question have a critical role to play in the resolution of the boundary question and for the maintenance of peace and tranquility in the border areas. Accordingly, they instructed the special representatives to meet at an early date and to continue their efforts in this regard.
The two leaders also reviewed the state of bilateral relations from a strategic and long-term perspective. The bilateral marks another upturn in the India-China ties after a consensus between the two countries on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control.
The two leaders also reviewed the state of bilateral relations from a strategic and long-term perspective. They were of the view that stable bilateral relations between India and China, the two largest nations on earth, will have a positive impact on regional and global peace and prosperity. And both of them stressed that with maturity and wisdom, and by showing mutual respect for each other's sensitivities, interests, concerns, and aspirations, the two countries can have a peaceful, stable and beneficial bilateral relationship.
And now let us give you a background at the key meetings between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping in the past, including those of BRICS. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping first meeting took place on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Brazil. This was in the year 2014. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited India on September 17th, 2014. Then Xi Jinping also visited India. This was his state visit, marked first by a Chinese president to India in over 6 decades. Prime Minister Modi then visited China in May 2015. And President Xi hosted Prime Minister Modi in Xi'an. This was 2015. And PM Modi and President Xi met on the sidelines of BRICS and SCO summits in Russia the same year. In 2016, Prime Minister Modi met President Xi Jinping during the G20 summit in Guangzhou, China. In 2017, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi met at Astana SCO summit. On July 7th, 2017, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi had an informal exchange at the G20 summit in Hamburg, Germany. Then, the same year, in the month of September, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi's first formal interaction took place at the BRICS summit in Xiamen. Then we had the Wuhan informal summit in 2018, where Prime Minister Modi met President Xi on April 26th. On June 9, 2018, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi met again on the sidelines of the SCO summit again in Qingdao. In 2019, Xi Jinping visited India for an informal summit in Mamallapuram, Tamil Nadu. And on November 15, 2022, the two leaders met again at the G20 summit in Indonesia. Last year, in the month of August, PM Modi met President Xi. This was the BRICS summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. Of course, the last meeting being very pivotal because of the addition of the new members in the grouping. And let's now go across to DD India's Jessica Taneja, who is standing by for us in Kazan, the venue of the 16th BRICS Summit. Jessica, going by the developments over the day, what has been the biggest takeaway of BRICS and, of course, of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address at the summit?
Right, you saw the Prime Minister earlier, of course, addressed, the plenary session, and where all the other BRICS leaders did also talk about the issues that together talking on economic integration, looking at the aspirations of the countries who need financial assistance, the larger role that the National Development Bank would play now since its inception. You'd recall the National Development Bank, along with the contingency reserve arrangements, were established. $100 billion were put into that, roughly $30 billion worth of projects have already been financed by the NDB towards various infrastructure projects. So enhancing the role of NDB was important. But Tanvi, the 16th BRICS Summit has provided a fertile ground for a significant breakthrough between the Indian Prime Minister and his Chinese counterpart, nearly coming after 5 years, ever since we saw the border standoff along the India-China border. Now, India continued to reiterate that, resumption of normal or bilateral ties would only continue if there is peace and tranquility on the border. And with the positive outcome that we saw today, that has certainly taken up momentum. Talking about, the agreements that were reached and the patrolling points that were agreed upon, you'd recall there was some reports on whether it also included Demsong and Depchok. Well, the Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, did confirm that it does include those areas because of the talks that continue to focus on peace and tranquility on the border. Two leaders, of course, China will host the SCO next year, and Prime Minister also showed support for the SCO chairmanship of China due to be held next year. So we could see the resumption of bilateral ties, but it will be too early to say as to what this would entail, because when we talk about confidence building measures between the two nations, that is something that will have to be worked upon. But the work that has been put by the representatives of both the leaders, or the negotiators of both the leaders, who've made it possible for both the leaders to meet here and provide them a fertile ground for engagement, has certainly helped ease, helped ease the tensions. that have been simmering between the two nations, especially along the border area. Now that the restoration of peace and tranquility on the border has been agreed upon, one will have to wait and see whether this leads to resumption of trade ties. Does it lead to direct commercial flights between the two nations, which were halted 5 years ago? Because China continues to be our largest trading partner, and it was important to establish at least a basic trust mechanism to continue to move forward in that direction, especially when it comes to talk. You share a 3,500-kilometer border with China, and it was important to engage with China on that particular aspect. And the BRICS summit has been able to provide that fertile ground for both the nations to engage.
Yes, and importantly, Jessica, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also sounded a word of reassurance when he stated that BRICS must be careful in not giving the impression that it is trying to replace the existing global institutions. Would you agree that this was a much needed reassurance?
Absolutely, Tanvi. It was, because it is a firm belief that India has, especially when it comes to India's engagement in various other multilateral forums. What you'd see, India's foreign policy is fixed on strategic autonomy. It engages with all countries and pursues its own strategic and its strategic interests. So, given the fact on how it has moved forward, it does show that although we don't agree with the fact that we're anti-Western, we're definitely non-Western, but we're not anti-Western. We continue to engage with countries with whom we have mutual interests. So that continues to pay. And talking about building up a counter to the West, that was certainly has been India's position, that it doesn't want to be drawn into a conflict of competing powers. India wants to continue to pursue its own strategic interests and be the voice of the global South.
Okay, thank you very much, Jessica. Jessica Taneja reporting from Kazan, Russia. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held a bilateral meeting with Uzbekistan President Shavkat Mirziyoyev in Kazan. A short while ago, the two leaders met on the sidelines of the summit of the BRICS grouping in the southwestern Russian city of Kazan. So this was the other bilateral meeting planned with Uzbekistan's president. Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the 16th BRICS summit in Kazan today. He addressed the plenary session of the BRICS summit. PM Modi highlighted the impact of the new development bank on the global south. The bank provides long-term financial sustainability.
पिछले 10 वर्षों में यह बैंक ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों के विकास के लिए महत्वपूर्ण विकल्प के रूप में उभर रहा है। भारत के गिफ्ट सिटी के साथ साथ अफ्रीका तथा रूस में रीजनल सेंटर्स के खुलने से इस बैंक की गतिविधियों को बल मिला है और लगभग $35 बिलियन के डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स सैंक्शन किए गए हैं। एनडीबी को डिमांड ड्रिवन सिद्धांत पर काम करते रहना चाहिए और बैंक का विस्तार करते हुए लॉन्ग टर्म फाइनेंशियल सस्टेनेबिलिटी, हेल्दी क्रेडिट रेटिंग और मार्केट एक्सेस सुनिश्चित करने पर प्राथमिकता रहनी चाहिए।
In his address, Prime Minister Modi announced that BRICS Startup Forum will be launched this year.
हमें स्मॉल और मीडियम स्केल इंडस्ट्री के हितों पर भी फोकस करना चाहिए। मुझे खुशी है कि 2021 में भारत की अध्यक्षता के दौरान प्रस्तावित ब्रिक्स स्टार्टअप फोरम इस वर्ष लॉन्च किया जाएगा। भारत द्वारा दिया गया रेलवे रिसर्च नेटवर्क का इनिशिएटिव भी ब्रिक्स देशों के बीच लॉजिस्टिक्स और सप्लाई चेन कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाने में अहम भूमिका निभा रहा है।
So at the conclusion of the BRICS summit, the leaders adopted the Kazan Declaration. The main points of the declaration are as follows: strengthening multilateralism for a more just and democratic world order, enhancing cooperation for global regional stability and security, fostering economic and financial cooperation for just global development, and strengthening people-to-people exchanges for social and economic development. And now we have a special report by RT correspondents on BRICS and India's role in solving global problems.
Hello to India from our studio in the Russian city of Kazan. Of course, this is where the BRICS summit kicks off today. Last year, it was a group of 5. Today, it stands as a power of 9. Of course, New Delhi plays a key role in the alliance, and it's an alliance that's living, breathing proof of the growth of the multipolar world. BRICS is all about giving a voice to the previously voiceless, and the global south is just waiting to be heard.
Now, if we talk about BRICS in general, then a lot is on the table here. They're talking about further growth, strengthening economies, security, strengthening the BRICS Development Bank, and perhaps most importantly, creating an independent BRICS international payment system, perhaps all crucial for BRICS to play a crucial role in the multipolar world. Igor Piskunov, RT, reporting from Kazan.
Well, crossing live now to RT correspondent Runjan Sharma. Runjan, welcome to Tatarstan. Do you think that India could be a platform, a space for mediation, for negotiation?
There's no doubt there. You see, Saskia, how many countries in the world today have access both to Russia and to Ukraine? In fact, how many leaders in the world have been both to Russia and to Ukraine? Remember, after Narendra Modi's first visit this year to Russia, soon after that, he also went to Ukraine. There was a lot of speculation as to why he's doing that. But of course, when you look at it in this conflict, there has been few leaders who've spoken to both the countries, and Narendra Modi understands that it is India, it is the global south that is basically, it's impacted by the conflicts that the West is engaged in. When you look at it from that perspective, of course, India wants the conflict to end.
So what does the BRICS alliance mean in world terms? Well, as of today, the group accounts for 46% of the global population. Just so we understand, that's 3.6 billion people. It also unites 45% of the Earth's landmass, and of course, economically, such a big player, representing more than 47% of global GDP. With the intake of new, very energy-rich members, it also brings 45% of the world's oil and gas reserves under its wings. Business, culture, geopolitics, finance, of course, fashion, even so much brings together the BRICS plus nations. And based on what we've been seeing and hearing, it looks like this group is in it for the long haul. That's for now. Goodbye from our beautiful special coverage studio right here in the heart of Kazan, just a stone's throw away from the world-famous UNESCO heritage site, the Kremlin.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken discusses Gaza and Lebanon with Saudi Crown Prince, urges for a halt to the fighting in West Asia. Britain and Germany sign a defence pact, the first of its kind between Europe's two biggest spenders on defence.
जिंदगी की हर छोटी बड़ी जरूरत के लिए आप जो सपने सजाते हैं, बस उसी उम्मीद को तो हम सहारा लगाते हैं। SIP आपकी सेविंग्स को आपकी खातिर काम पर लगाएगी। आज ही अपनी पहली SIP की शुरुआत करें। अधिक जानकारी के लिए अपने वित्तीय सलाहकार से परामर्श करें। LIC म्यूचुअल फंड द्वारा निवेशक शिक्षा की एक पहल।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिम के अधीन है। योजना से संबंधित सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to West Asia now. Several strikes have been reported on Lebanon's Tyre on Wednesday after the Israeli army warned residents to evacuate swathes of the coastal city, which boasts of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Footage showed plumes of thick black smoke rising from several neighborhoods, with parts of the evacuation area just 500 meters from the city's ancient ruins. Only about 14,500 people were still in Tyre on Tuesday, thousands of them displaced from other parts of the south. The Israeli army called on residents of parts of the South Lebanon city of Tyre to evacuate on Wednesday. The army's Arabic language spokesman Avichai Adari posted a map of the affected streets in Tyre on social media platform X, urging residents to leave. Israel's military said that it had killed 3 Hezbollah commanders and some 70 fighters in southern Lebanon in the past 48 hours, a day after confirming the killing of Hashim Safeddin, the terrorist group's heir apparent leader. Israel has been carrying out an escalating offensive in Lebanon after a year of border clashes with Hezbollah, the most formidably armed of Iran's proxy forces across West Asia. On a mission to find solution to the West Asia conflict, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Riyadh on Wednesday. Later, he met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud and pushed ahead for a ceasefire between Israel and the militant groups. This visit can be seen as the last-ditch effort by the U.S. in peace brokering between the two sides, as the upcoming presidential elections in the U.S. may change the country's policy on the overall situation. While preparing to leave Israel for Riyadh on the next stage of his West Asia visit on Wednesday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged Israel to use the opportunity created by its success in dismantling much of Hamas's capacity in Gaza and the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar to reach a longer-term solution to the conflict.
Broadly, there remains, despite everything that's happened, an incredible opportunity in this region to move in a totally different direction, one that actually provides in a durable way for Israel's security, for its place in the region, a country that's integrated, working with its Arab partners, accepted by them, isolating Iran and those who are trying to disrupt and destroy people's lives.
Britain's Defence Minister John Healey and his German counterpart Boris Pistorius signed a defence agreement on Wednesday, the first of its kind between Europe's 2 biggest spenders on defence, which includes a commitment to develop deep strike weapons. The 2 NATO allies said that the pact would strengthen their ability to cooperate and conduct exercises on the bloc's eastern flank, improving their deterrence in the light of Russia's war with Ukraine. Under the agreement, the countries will work together on developing new weapons that have greater range and accuracy than current long-range missile systems like Storm Shadow, which Britain has given to Ukraine. Hardeep Singh Puri, the Indian Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, highlighted the crucial impact of artificial intelligence on the energy sector, emphasizing its transformative potential. Speaking on the theme AI for Energy, the minister described the integration of AI into the energy industry as both timely and groundbreaking, marking a significant milestone in the sector's evolution. He stressed that AI will revolutionize operations, enhance efficiency and accelerate the transition towards a more sustainable energy future.
Digital innovation is a cross-cutting theme across industries which play a pivotal role in achieving the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047. The oil and gas sector is increasingly adopting AI and generative AI, Gen AI, to optimize operations and drive efficiency through real-time data and insights. AI adoption in oil and gas sector has now become a necessity as we look to navigate the complexities of the energy sector. International oil and gas companies are investing heavily in AI to optimize operational efficiency, improve safety, and pave the way for a transition to a low-carbon future.
And with that, we wrap up this broadcast of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.